Okay, so welcome one, welcome all. This is the JERKMONGER starting my live thing. So right now there's nobody in the room. That's cool with me because it gives me a chance to kind of just practice. That's really what this is for me. It's kind of like an intro to what I do normally on Instagram, what I've done before on other things like what do you call it? I forget the other place I used to do this on. But anyway, Twitch. But I figured that I would just kind of launch into, this is a live session here. So good, 55 seconds. And we're good. We're all right. So I'm just going to draw like I normally would. And I might break this up into a couple of things. Maybe I'll do a little bit here. And give a little bit of love to Facebook Live, and let's see how that goes. Anyway, I gotta work on stuff anyway. Maybe I'll turn this into like an Aquaman. This is cool. Lines here, they move like a fish a little bit, so maybe I'll do a little Aquamaning. Oops. Got it. Yeah, so far no one's here, so that's good to know. Maybe I did this wrong, I'm not sure. All right, I got a couple people coming in. I see that. Thanks, guys, for showing up. I don't know who you are. I'm not sure if there's a chat. Is there a chat feature in this? Oh, there sure is. All right, nice. What we drawing? Well, Mr. Blackman 2132. I think I'm doing a little bit of Aquaman here. I wanted to try something somewhat different here than I normally would draw in places. I normally draw Batman all the time or whatever, but this is kind of fun too, to kind of just give this a spin. I'm kind of giving this a test to see what I could do here on YouTube. I'm thinking about at some point converting this not just into a demo thing, but also doing podcasting here on YouTube. Just a little bit of everything. And I'm also being thoughtful about what I have on here. Let's see, show live chat. Draw what you know is the best warm-up. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see here. So I started out earlier, a few minutes ago, no one was here, so I was just kind of playing around with these shapes, and the reason why I decided to do Aquaman is because I started out with these muscles in the neck, and it kind of felt like there's a lot of fluidity to it, a lot of movement. So that gave me the impression that maybe I can start with something aquatic, and of course, seeing as my go-to thing is superheroes, I decided, let me try doing Aquaman. So right on. I hate that I'm talking so low. Can you hear me okay? Everybody hear me all right? Okay, I guess. Yep, okay, cool. All right. So, Mr. Blackman, what do you think? What's something that you're interested in knowing more about? What do you do, and what can I do to help you improve? That's a little lofty, right? What can I do to help you get better? As long as it's related to art. I'm not sure I can help you with much else, but so you can see I'm kind of playing around with the face. It may not be Aquaman after all. Who knows? Maybe you guys can't see that very well. Can I zoom? Very nice. We can zoom. All right then. All right then. All right, so dynamic poses. All right. That sounds like something we can talk about. So let's start off then in action sequences. All right. So let's talk about action. Let's talk about first go with poses, because those are almost like two different things. As action sequences, I think the better thing to do for action sequences is probably to just be a better student of film and break down a great action movie scene by scene, shot by shot, and kind of try to get a feel for some of the tropes. That there are always some sort of trope that goes into that. For me, a lot of it's just wrestling or fighting or whatever. But as far as poses, this is something that I learned from a good friend of mine. I call these things 10-second sketches. I'm going to take longer than 10 seconds to show you what I mean. And if you've heard this before, then stop me. But I swear this is what has helped me quite a bit. So you start talking about the figure, the form. You can see my pencil point. You can see how small this thing. This is the head of a character. I don't know which character it is. It could be it could be a female. It can be a male. It can be a droid. It could be all sorts of things. So, but for now, this is my male figure, and so I tend to build out kind of what you might call the torso. The bust. Actually, this is more like a bust, and I don't spend a lot of time drawing. I try to draw these things very quick, and that was the goal. When I learned this was when I was actually working on storyboards, and my friend Gus was trying to help me break out of this like real stiff way of drawing I had, and he said, look, try this, and it really, really helped me. And what you're doing is you're trying to, in very simple what do I want to call this, shapes and line, you're trying to identify or indicate motion, activity, the form in these different kinds of things. And it's important to do it at this smaller size. I mean, this is about, 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall. Okay. This is super important because this gives you a little bit of room to kind of practice the figure without worrying about, I'm going to draw the nose and the perfect symmetry to the eyes, and then the other eye is off from the other eye. And this just gives you a little bit of room to just kind of play around with the figure and give yourself a little bit of, room to play around. Instead of worrying about details, you're only thinking about specific parts of the form. I should say non-specific parts of the form is what I really mean to say, because you're really trying to get out of that whole trap of getting caught up in, is that perfect drawing, or is this just to me to get loose? So the reason why I call them 10-second sketches is because you're supposed to try to draw these things in 10 seconds. This is the reason why this is an arm and not this. I can spend 1 minute to 2 minutes drawing a nicely formed arm, but all that does is gets me bogged down into the joints and the elbow and all that stuff. I don't want all that. All I really want is that, because I'm drawing this in 10 seconds. The idea is to get these things out. So what I would also do is I would take a little, just like I mentioned, taking hints from film for your action sequences. I would also say take a hint from comics that you like and try to draw the poses that you think are the things. If you're a Jim Lee guy, then look at some Jim Lee stuff. I probably wouldn't recommend Jim Lee, actually, because he's a little on the stiff side. But some other artists that are really fluid, like Alan Davis is one of my favorites, and you can kind of get ideas from guys like him. I would argue guys like Andy or Adam Kubert are pretty good. And maybe this is not your favorite artists, but these are guys who are skilled at drawing action poses. So they might not be the skin on the skeleton that you're trying to draw might not be as attractive to you, but the skeleton itself can teach you a lot. So the idea is to kind of to be able to draw these things in 10 seconds or less, to give yourself some room to, possibly make some mistakes. Tremor poses and sequences are amazing, and of course Kubert's. Okay, very cool, very cool. So that's kind of what I mean. You look for the guy. If Trapmore's your guy, then you want to, try to see what he might do for a thing. If you remember on the old comic or the old book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, John Buscema goes through these painstaking things to show you how to draw things with cylinders, right? And there's this and there's this, and these are all little cool things, and this is great. This is how you're supposed to think at that larger size. But if you want to go the other route where you have a little more, I don't want to call it control, but just to get a little faster as to what's going on, there was another part where he was drawing Thor, and he just did a lot of this. I'm drawing my camera here is at a little bit of an angle. Let me see if I can straighten it out for you, so you can get a little more of a better view of what I'm trying to say. So, for example, sorry for the earthquake. Is anything working so far? I hope it is. So he would do this. He kind of did a bunch of these things, and he kind of wiggled and drew lines. And then you see a lot of artists do this because they're trying not to pick up the pencil from off the page, and they kind of scribble. You kind of scribble your figure, right? And so the idea here is that you have scribbling, but you're really coming up with some kind of pose. And even though, maybe he's firing a weapon, blast, whatever. The idea is that you can just feel your way through the anatomy, almost like you're still exploring it as you go along. And what this does is it kind of opens you up to how shall I say, experimentation and happy accidents, really, because now maybe if I was to draw this thing as a regular, a definite, pre-planned figure, I might spend a lot of time with where everything's supposed to go. Now, when I get to this part, right, I can come back with my needed. Sorry about that. I think I made an oopsie. All right, here we go. All right, so guys, I was saying, come back with my kneaded eraser, and you can kind of knock down those lines, right? So just as long as I can still see it, and if you must, and I must, I'll grab my sharpener and sharpen a little more. Now I'm gonna zoom in a little bit as well. Oops, there you go. Now I can come in and get a little tighter and practice all the anatomy things that you've been learning, perhaps, and assuming that you've been learning, and say, okay, now I want to build on this loose structure, the full actual anatomy, the full figure itself, no pun intended. Okay, so you see, I just started with the scribble, and now I'm kind of using that scribble to basically go through and, oh snap, my man, Jose, yeah, I'm doing live stream, I'm trying it out, man. It's my first one. I already had technical difficulties, but that's all right. And anyway, so you here, you can kind of see now where, with some subtle drawing and all the stuff that you can learn from any anatomy book, or from life drawing, now you're putting your energy into the finished piece, but you have all the stuff laid out for you. So it's really about kind of preparing yourself for success. You're planning for success with these loose lines. Give yourself some room to be loose and a little more carefree, and then you can come back and at some point and really dial into that image. Maybe I do the gun a little sooner than I ought to have, so I'll come back in. And then if you really want to go further, this might be the underdrawing for something more elaborate at a larger size. But these 10-second sketches I talk about it's the beginning of all that. And what I like about these 10-second sketches and them being about the size of a sticky note, a small sticky note, is you're coming up with these loose graphic elements to represent your figure. Can you see that okay? So like here's a character's kind of flying or running or whatever you think you need it to look like, And the point is that you continue to kind of build into this a system by practicing this way where you get more successful poses. Maybe a guy, I need a Dr. Doom guy going ha ha ha. So I got a chest beating. Maybe he's not beating his chest, but he's like, I will defeat you, Richards. I'm excited to make a reference to Dr. Doom because we might have some Fantastic Four movies coming up, which I would delight in. So I'm still kind of overdoing it with the legs here. So and this is our tendency to kind of want to add detail because we are hunting for something to happen faster than normal. But here you can see that you can get a lot out of this, and another great reason to do this is because you get a sense of completion at this early stage. A lot of times we spend all our energy drawing these figures and really trying to I got to draw this, and we don't really do a good job of it, and then next thing you know, we wasted all our time drawing a pose that you can't use. Well, drawing it at this size gives you an opportunity to kind of say, hey, you know what? That's a cool pose for my scene. So if you're doing an action sequence and you got some guys wrestling or fighting with each other, this is where you want to practice those activities, those actions. A lot of times you'll see comic artists also use this sort of thing in the side, the gut. I don't know what they used to call. I forget what they call that now. Off to the side of the text of a script or something. You'll see a lot of these little sketches that artists will do, and that's kind of where it comes from. And so I'm drawing things that I have in my head. I'm not sure that helps you guys, but this helps me quite a bit. So anyway, so I can fill up a whole page with just these guys, and it'd be great, Very cool, man. Very cool. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean it's a slow process, and you can also practice different like body types. Like this is a bigger dude. This is like a Venom, and I like to give Venom, real big chest. Any creators own stuff coming? Yeah, as a matter of fact, do you follow me at all on Instagram, Mr. Blackman here? If you do, I don't want to bore you with the stuff that you may have already seen. If you don't, then I'll be happy to show you. Oh, okay. Have you seen my videos on there with my JERKMONGER stuff? So I'm just doing here. Just a couple. All right, let me give me a second here. I'll show you some stuff that I'm kind of messing with. Actually, I have a bunch of different ideas. However, I hate to say that because obviously you can only do so much at a time. But I am actually working on multiple concepts at once. Oh, that's not it. Sorry to keep you guys hanging on. One moment. There we go. I just rearranged my office, so some of my stuff is out and about. So, let's try that again. Let me just pinch it. All right, here we go. So basically, this is some concept stuff I've been kind of messing with, trying to figure out what one of my characters are. This is kind of what I think he is here. He is a side character that I'm kind of having mess around with the character I'm calling JERKMONGER. And that's him right there. So basically, he's it's going to be an adventure story, adventure strip involving This character, JERKMONGER, a female. Here she looks smaller, but she's not. She's actually taller than he is. I did a sketch of something. Let's see. Yeah, so this is pretty much the size relationship between those characters. Yeah, very Dragon's Lair. That's you mentioned something earlier about when you're warming up on stuff. I also think you should work on stuff you love and that you're good at doing. And when I was a kid growing up, this was my thing, man. It was Conan, and it was who was it? Thundar the Barbarian. For a second there, I was going to do an elf that looked like Dave Chappelle, and I wasn't getting the likeness right, so I abandoned it real quick. I want it to be fun and silly, irreverent, but I don't want it to be too heavy. Issue 6 of my book, Afro Avenger. Right on, man. Right on, right on, right on. This is that character again. Oh, yeah. Right on, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be cool, man. I'm actually going to launch it on something called Webtoon. A lot of cats seem to be trying that out, so I'm excited about that. Afro Avenger. I got to check that out, man. This is my tiger squirrel Zeus. He's going to be an important part of my character's world. This is some early drawings. So this is just some of that stuff. Let's see if I have more stuff in here. This is a bunch of drawings and different characters that I've been developing, different expressions on characters. I'm really big on acting. I like to see my characters act. I really want them to be more than just two-dimensional things. I want to see their expressions and be able to say things without just with the eyes and stuff like that. So that's where a lot of that comes from. So this right here is another story I want to develop. It's about these kids, these boys that go to an all-boys school, and they uncover a mystery at the school that they have to uncover. I was a big fan of the young reader books coming up. I used to love on Saturday mornings where they would have like all the cartoons. They'd also have these specials that come on that have like books interpreted as short films. And that was a big deal for me. So this is another character of mine. It's a superhero kid that hangs out with a bunch of kids in a neighborhood, in a town that he's the protector of. He's fun. Some cool drawings, little anime inspired for those who are into that. Another kid character who's like a Conan character. Thanks, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is a thought about who this character might look like early on. This is the original drawing of a story I have called Flick, and you can see lightning's a big deal in my stories. I'm really big on power and electricity being the representation of power. I love Captain Marvel. So this is a character design I did for this guy who's basically like you can see all the notes I have everywhere. He's basically a kind of like a Peter Pan, right? And so here's another shot of him. He's kind of a Peter Pan who visits this world. And this is the villain. This is the Man in Black, the Shadow Man. There's another variation of the same character. This is another version of the same superhero kid from the other story. This is another drawing of him. I thought maybe it would be kind of cool in that style. So back, I don't know, I guess probably last year before, I really started playing around with a simpler style. I'm really inspired by Chris Somney and guys like him and how they draw with fewer lines. Darwin Cook was a big deal, and Bruce Timm, and I just like these styles. Alex Toth, absolutely. So, but I would say that they're more directly. I'm inspired by his proteges. I imagine you could call them. But this is just a Superman study that I did using that look. You can see the evolution. This is some of the earlier ones. It kind of goes back in time a little bit. And I'm always trying to simplify. I tend to overdraw these things. I did a little study of Punisher in this style, just to try to get a feel for what I think he might look like. Little Frank taking the kid to school, maybe. Then of course I do these more fully rendered things that are more realistic or pseudo-realism. So all these are just movie monster ideas that I've been playing around with another project I'm not supposed to talk about. So I'm going to stop showing you guys very quickly. Oh yeah. These are a group of guys, and this is just like a drop in the bucket, man. I have like a couple of binders full of different characters that I've developed over the years. But this is this guy here, he has a problem with Pyrex, and you know, that's a problem. But anyway, so a lot of this is just kind of like exploring those concepts. You can see I'm still working out some ideas for illustration versus comic art. I'm definitely trying to move into that arena more. You know, illustration is really important to me. Then for my personal works, and when I do comics, I want it to be my stuff. This is a whole other story I'm kind of developing about this kid who's kind of like a Narnia meets Where the Wild Things Are. So that's something I'm developing as well. And that might be it. So that's all that's on the block right now. I'm just, like I said, this is more of a test for me. I'm kind of running on 26 minutes here according to the timer on Facebook. But let me show you this. This is another something I just wrapped up earlier today. Time Bandits. Yeah. So you can see some of this going on here in my work also. This is a little more of the approach I'm taking these days. Yeah, I really should address this here. Anyway, so one of the things I want to do here is also spend some time doing discussions on, you know, movies and things of that nature. So there'll be like spoiler reviews, and I want to do and non-spoiler reviews, I suppose. I'm just more interested in the spoiler reviews, though, I'm not gonna lie. Who wins, Goku or Superman? I have to say, I don't know, man. I gotta say, I think Goku wins. What do you think? I don't know. That's just my thoughts. So yeah, I don't know if this helped you, man. I this helps me. This whole discussion on, you know, the poses and I also play around a lot with like bending the body. So like, I think a lot about how the human figure has these nice twists and turns. You know, I'm very in tune with that. So at least I try to think I am. Actually, this is going to go a little lower. And sometimes this helps a lot when you're just kind of feeling your way through a certain thing or another. Yeah, good. I mean, if it doesn't help, you know, there's other things and there's other books and stuff, but hopefully you can benefit to some degree from some of my knowledge, if at all seems like something you're interested in. When you feel good about those type of things, you can kind of jump into those poses sooner, because you're not locking into like a specific, oh, I gotta have that arm be like this. Sometimes it's okay if it bends a little bit weird. I remember like John Buscema's art sometimes on comics some of his characters would bend and feel a little Gumby. That's not a bad thing if it's done with the right, you know, purpose. All right. Well, I'm coming on to the 30-minute mark, so I'm gonna wrap it up now. I want to thank you. There's only one more person. I don't know sure who you are, but thank you for hanging out with me. And I will try this again sooner than later. Maybe we can bring more people on board and just have a longer discussion and try that. All right. God bless you guys. Peace out. Talk to you later. Bye.